Hi, I'm Sarah Mohan, and you're listening to Tigress on Tuk-tuk, a nature podcast especially for you, my fellow urban monkeys. First off, I have a request. So, Spotify has introduced an exciting new rating feature. You can't leave a review like on Apple Podcasts, but you can rate this show, and it would be crazy helpful if each of you did leave me a rating. Hopefully, a good one. Spotify lets you do this if you've listened to 2 episodes or more, so thanks, guys. It would be really, really helpful if you did. Right, so today I'm totally venturing into unknown territory. This thing is something I've never been any good at, or so I've always believed, and as it happens with things one is intimidated by, I never ever explored it. Admired it greatly from a distance, yes, but never even tried to get into it. I'm talking about art. And by that, I mean drawing, painting, sketching, what have you. Art classes were nightmarish for me because I always felt like anything I drew ended up looking like right handed me had drawn it with my left hand. Actually, more like I try to hold the pencil with my toes. I'm not exaggerating. Biology was my favorite subject in school. I aced it, but never was I ever able to draw for my lab record books. If you were a science student, you know how important those were, right? Mine always got sent back by the teacher because my diagram of the human ear canal was unrecognizable or because my cockroach looked like it had been on some new fad diet. In school and in college, friends have taken pity on me, taken away my record books, and finished my drawings for me. So, yeah, I've had no desire to try drawing, sketching, even for fun, until recently when I discovered nature journaling. Now, this is not a new concept. It has existed for centuries, but the way it's practiced today has hardly anything to do with drawing. Sure, you have to put pen to paper, but that's not the point. And it brings together three things indispensable to life, if you ask me: science, art, and writing. And so I decided to find out all about nature journaling and see if maybe it's something I could try. Of course, now you have to try too. Figuring out my guest for this one was easy peasy. Now, there has been a lovely, riotous explosion of artists, especially nature and science illustrators in India. But when it comes to nature journaling, there's only one name on my lips. Not surprising because she brought the nature journaling movement to India in a big way. I met her virtually for the first time at a meeting and was thrilled because she'd always been on my guest list. And so, post meeting, I promptly sent her a couple of long ass gushy DMs where I confessed to stalkerishly looking at all her artwork and also asking if she'd pretty please be on the show. In her effortlessly sweet way, she said yes. I met her up in Bangalore where she lives, and she not only had me over at hers for the interview, but also offered me her spare room where I could camp out for the night simply because it would save me a lot of crazy travel time. I was so touched. I could have been some strange weirdo for all she knew. I wasn't that night. Anyway, especially at the end of a long day of recording and traipsing all across Bangalore city, highly frustrated with public transport, lugging around a backpack half the size of me, her beautiful home surrounded by so much nature, meeting her and her funny husband, sharing a meal with them, and being looked at now and then with a "disappear from this house, human" glint in his eye by their gorgeous black cat, Baku, was precisely what I needed, and this interview turned out to be such fun despite how dead on my feet I was. It was rather late by the time we sat down, partly because of screaming neighborhood kids playing outside, and also because my recording equipment had some strange glitch which I can't explain to this day. But the kids went to bed, thank goodness. My recorder got a factory reset, stopped acting wonky, and we were good to go. I had so many questions, but I was also afraid they were all kind of lame because art for me is so new and unexplored. But the moment we sat down, there was this bubble of calm, and this had everything to do with my guest, and also perhaps the chirping cricket that wouldn't stop singing in the back garden. She told me not to worry about being bad at drawing, kept warning me multiple times that she's bad with interviews, but once we started, seemed to forget all about my big bad mic staring her in the face, and we chatted and giggled and drew. She broke down the basics of nature journaling, and she also took me out for a couple of walks the next morning where she guided me through a couple of exercises and techniques. This episode weaves in all that together. She exudes gentleness and tranquility. She creates magical art that seems to live and breathe on walls and in frames. And she makes deliciously comforting lemon tea with just the right hit of ginger. Anyone who knows me will know that I don't drink tea. Not if my life depended on it. But this was some kind of soul-warming magic potion, and I remember thinking as I sipped, wow, if this lady can get me to drink tea and enjoy it, she might just be able to get me to draw. Well, I think she's going to inspire us all to draw, that's for sure. Here's the moth-loving, seed-pod-obsessed Sangeetha Kadur.
My name is Sangeetha Kadur. At home, or people really close to me call me Suvi.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So, if the world were ending and they said, okay, Sangeetha, the world's ending and you have the chance to draw one last thing before the world ends, what might that creature or place or thing or whatever be?
Wow. Okay. I think I would like to find myself in a super exotic place. Like a place that I have been craving to go to but I haven't been to yet, like South America. And I think sketch and just journal the whole feel of being in that forest.
Sangeetha is also mad about moths. They make great muses because once they find a spot, they simply sit still. Important quality when someone's trying to draw you. She is also obsessed with seeds, and in her living room is a marvelous table with a sectioned glass showcase at the top, which opens up. Inside is a treasure trove of seeds of all sorts. Long, short, cone-like, stone-like, feathery, leathery, fluffy, fuzzy, winged, hooked, coloured. And she's always adding to her collection. So it's likely that moths and seeds would also feature in this hypothetical apocalypse-induced art. Did you pop out of the womb with paintbrush in one hand and palette in the other? Was that how art was for you?
Not at all, not at all. I think art was a gradual progression. I was interested in art, and I think I was always doodling, sketching. As a very small kid, I don't remember dabbling with paint and all that very much. I think sometime in school, I was very much, my favorite class was my drawing class. I was totally look forward to it. And then I decided, my cousins told me there was an art college out here in Bangalore. So I was like, okay, why not? Try it, give it a shot. And it was a degree in art. So I was like totally for
Sold,
it.
yeah. Sangeetha comes from a family that's wildlife crazy and has memories of poring through bird books and filling up many a page in her sketchbook with birds. Her greatest project so far involves a South American species known for their minuscule size, dazzling colors, and dizzying wing beats.
Yeah, without doubt, it is the Hummingbird project because I think that was like my stepping stone into this world of fine art, painting and sketching.
Right.
Before that, I was not trained in nature and wildlife art, and it helped me grow in a big way. Like we had a bird artist mentoring us as well. Plus, also I met so many other wildlife artists which we don't have in India. Like at least then, when I started off in 2005-06, and recently was the Hill Nature Information Center at Hills, Male Mahadeshwara Betta. Now when I look at myself and my how I'd like my artworks to be, it is something on those lines, because it's like my style of art is very illustrative, very like, you know, representing the animal within its habitat, and where best can I see it Like if it is in information board where lots of people, like different kind of audience are like looking at it and learning from it, I think that's something more meaningful.
Some of her pieces look like you could fall right into the picture and you'd find yourself in the forest or the habitat she's painted. You should check out some of her work on her website. I've linked it in the show notes. What is nature journaling and how does one go about it?
In simple ways, I think nature journaling is about observing the natural world, and it's like a direct interaction with the natural world and getting it on paper.
Right.
It's basically keeping a notebook with nature, and with nature journaling, we encourage sketching and writing about it.
Right.
It's a combination of both. And when I say writing, it could be just notes, it could be facts, it could be information, it could be your own emotions that you would put in there, or it could be just describing the whole scene, in words. And it could also be poetic if you'd like. The way you express is completely up to you.
Right.
And sketching, it could be simple sketches to something more fancier, something more detailed. It's completely up to you. It's your journal. It's just keeping a diary with nature.
So, nature journaling really is a personal expressions dump on paper and is unique to each person. The way it is packaged and practiced now makes it an easy tool to use for kids, adults, educators, employers, whoever you are, and has really caught on in a big way since the late 90s. But this is hardly a modern idea. Explorers of the earth and lovers of nature have kept nature journals and notebooks for thousands of years. King Solomon from the Bible was known to be a naturalist and is said to have kept detailed journals on plants, animals, insects, and fish. The explorer Marco Polo's travelogue describes in great detail many aspects of the natural world he discovered in Asia. Of course, there are scores of explorers who travelled the world. Some for fame and fortune, others for the joy of discovery, and some for colonization. Many of them were passionate naturalists who put down in fervent detail all what they saw.
We all know Darwin, right? Darwin is known for keeping a very meticulous notebook. He not too many sketches, but he would doodle here and there in his journals and everything. But mostly a lot of writing and describing it at length in detail, right? And literally every day. And he had separate books for field and his own emotions, like his life, and a whole bunch. And he says that don't trust anything to memory. There's a very interesting quote, because you might forget the details of it if you look at something a lot more interesting.
That's so true. The next
best thing, and you're like, oh, how did that look like?
Darwin's natural history journal, which he kept during his voyage on the HMS Beagle, is perhaps the greatest nature journal of all time. Others, like Henry David Thoreau, John James Audubon, R.W. Emerson, Ernst Haeckel, Aldo Leopold, are a few of the many others out there. Women, too, have made spectacular contributions, from Edith Holden's traditional nature journal, which is more like a country diary which she kept for a year, jotting down her thoughts, anecdotes, relevant poems, along with detailed watercolor illustrations of the landscape through the seasons, birds, butterflies, and other life forms around her country home. Naturalist and author Beatrix Potter, creator of the cherished Peter Rabbit, adapted her sketches of the countryside into lovely little children's stories that the modern world has only recently realized are also invaluable contributions to natural science. Marianne North was a Victorian botanist known for her detailed botanical paintings. There are several others, each with their own unique style, and today the world has many advocates of nature journaling.
There are plenty of tutorials online.
Okay.
Definitely, that people can look into. And there are some amazing books by Claire Leslie Walker.
Okay.
And even John
Muir.
Yeah, John Muir Laws.
Right.
Yes, he's also called Jack Laws.
Right.
But John Muir Laws is his other
Right,
name. Yeah.
right. Okay.
So he is literally transformed the whole meaning of nature journaling.
Right.
Literally, he has broken down every little thing and helped it become easier for people to really journal and look at species and be able to capture it in your sketchbooks.
So, folks like John Muir Laws, who, by the way, partially shares his name with John Muir, a 19th century naturalist also known for his nature journaling, Paula Peters, Claire Walker Lewis, and Bethan Burton are some of the names you should look up. There's just so many resources these guys have put out for people at any stage of nature journaling. In fact, in 2020, Bethan Burton created the International Nature Journaling Week, a global event with the sole purpose of celebrating nature journaling with people from all over the world. You can find out more on her website. Okay, so before we really begin, you need a nature journaling kit. What would you recommend for a beginner in terms of the medium and the tools? What's easiest to do?
I think for a beginner, it would be just pencils. In pencils, there are different grades of pencils.
Okay.
2B, HB, 2B to 6B, 8B as well. So carrying that would really help with getting your dark lines and light lines.
Right.
Okay. And then just a basic black pen or even colors, of course. But then black is generally most commonly used.
Okay.
And I would say these two are the most important, and a notebook. That's it, pretty much. That's all you need to nature journal.
Right.
If you want to add to that, you can of course carry your color pencils or crayons, and yeah, you can go on.
So in India, like I said, Sangeetha has been introducing people to nature journaling. On her trips to the US in the early 2000s, she saw how nature journaling was encouraged in various places like parks and museums and wanted to bring the concept to India. So she and Shilpa Shri, her friend from art college, started Green Scraps, through which they teach nature journaling in a structured manner.
We started in 2010. It's mainly Shilpa and myself who have been conducting these workshops. We are trying to see how we can bring in more art, so add in more techniques, teach them along with techniques how to journal with nature.
To the artistically challenged like myself, what kind of sort of techniques or like just to start with, what would you recommend?
Yeah, so for any beginner, many of them, like yourself, I would say, like many of them think that they cannot draw. You know,
I know I cannot draw, Sangeetha.
Yeah, the most common statements I get is, I cannot draw a straight line, I cannot draw a circle. You don't have to, you know. So it's just about observing. And it's like the more you observe and how you see it, it's all about the art of seeing. Okay, so that's the exercises or the activities that we put together in the beginning of our sessions, wherein the way you see something, that is what is going to get translated onto paper. And so there are many activities that are focused just on the power of or the art of seeing itself. Okay, so there's something called the blind contour and the modified contour sketching, wherein you don't even look at your paper. You don't even have to look at your paper. You're only looking at the object that you're sketching.
Okay.
And your hand is moving as you're looking at the object. So
oh my God,
that's something that we get many people to do it, and they are themselves amazed by what comes out of it.
I'm going to dazzle you, you just wait. I got my chance to shine when Sangeetha and I headed out and tried this exercise of blind contouring. It was first introduced by artist and author Kimon Nicolaides in his 1941 book, The Natural Way to Draw. So I quickly looked him up, and he had such an interesting career. Before he became a teacher of art, he worked for the US Army as what they called a camoufleur. These were artists, architects, sculptors, painters who were camouflage specialists, and during World War I, the American Army had a whole unit of them. They were deployed to various critical places and were involved on and off the battlefield, their main job being concealment through camouflage, which meant fiddling with the outline or form of whatever they were concealing so that it blended into the surroundings. These guys did way more than camouflaging uniforms and artillery. They modified landscapes. For example, they'd make and install a fake tree in no man's land in the dead of the night, which would then double up as an observation post to spy on the enemy, and apparently even used camouflage on an entire stretch of road to smuggle out women and children. Nicolaides then put all his expertise into this book, considered one of the best manuals to learn drawing. Blind contouring is all about getting the outline right and using one's power of observation to draw what they see instead of what they think they see. This classical drawing exercise involves drawing still objects, so we started by collecting some leaves.
Pick up a leaf or two, fallen leaves. Looking for something with a lot more deformities, but...
Now this is because the rips and tears on a leaf edge makes this exercise more challenging and fun. Look for simple shapes with a good stalk so you can hold it whilst you draw.
We focus on the form of the leaf.
So no inner details, patterns, colors, forget about all that.
This is only the contour, the outline of the leaf. This particular activity is very good for getting your hand and eyes well coordinated, and you get the sketch on your book, wherein you are looking only at the leaf and not at your book. Okay, so there are 3 rules that we follow. Hold it at eye level and don't move the leaf. Okay, the reason we tell hold it at eye level is because we don't want you to peek into your book.
Hence the word blind.
Second rule is no peeking into your book. Okay, only looking at the leaf. Okay. And the third interesting rule is once we start sketching, you shouldn't lift your pencil until you think you have finished the entire sketch. Okay, it's good.
You can start from the top or bottom. Oh, and use that imagination.
Imagine yourself that you're one tiny ant walking at one pace all along the edges of the leaf. Okay, and we can start. So it's literally like drawing with your eyes.
Got it. Okay.
The way your eyes move, your hand is moving below. Okay, I'm an ant now, and I'm starting with one pace, and it is curved. There's a little notch there.
All you want to do is travel the outline of the leaf, your eye and hand moving as one. Like Sangeetha said, this improves hand-eye coordination, and it also sharpens the right brain's ability to focus on observable details.
Yeah, I think I'm done. I have no idea what is on paper. Let's see. All right.
Huh. Well, it looks like a leaf.
It looks like a leaf. And you also try it, and then we'll talk about it.
There's like a nice deep, it's almost like 2 cheeks breaking off.
I plunged right in and focused on trying to block out everything else except the outline. What I didn't do enough, and I think really helps when you're starting off, is calling out your journey along the leaf edge. I also struggled to keep the symmetry on both sides. But hey, I'm doing this blind.
The pace matters a lot because over here what has happened, after I turned around, okay, I have started looking at it very slowly. So if I look at it slowly, it becomes a little longer. If I look at it fast, sometimes it just stops here. By not lifting your pencil, as you said, you're not distracted, you're not going back and searching for where you stopped and all that. And the other important thing is gives you one flow, one continuous flow, so that you can finish the entire leaf. You're more focused and with the leaf the whole time.
I think I've finished.
All right. Oh, not bad. You forgot the stalk.
My second attempt was even better. I missed connecting the stalk at the bottom, but at least it looked like an actual leaf.
But you pretty much got the form of it and the...
Yeah, I'm really surprised. I did not
You
expect...
can draw a leaf.
We walked around and also tried this with a handmaiden moth, which obliged us by staying put. My moth did look a bit malnourished, but I kept going, doing my best to look at the moth and not so much at my sketchbook. And I desperately wanted my favorite thing in a pencil case.
So here's a question. Do you ever carry an eraser?
Oh, I don't. So, I usually, even during my workshops, we don't even give erasers to the children.
Wow.
But just having that kind of urges you to fix things.
There are more advanced versions of the line contouring method, and you can try them all as you get better and better. You never really stop. Think of these as warm-up or practice exercises that you do forever. Practice, practice, practice. These techniques help you get better at drawing, but only as long as you're observing your object.
There's a very cool Zen saying. It says, if you haven't drawn, you haven't really seen.
Wow, that's
Intense.
true.
Dr. Fredrik Frank, teacher, artist, and author of over 30 books on human spirituality, is best known for his book, The Zen of Seeing. He said, quote, "I have learned that what I have not drawn, I have never really seen." End quote. Man, that gave me some serious FOMO for never having tried this all my life. And also, this song randomly went off in my head. I think to draw this way, the most important thing you need are hungry eyes. Now, another thing to improve this all-important ability, the art of seeing, is an insatiable case of curiosity. Asking questions about the world around you. This might come easy to some of us, but if on a given day the mind feels blank, nature journaling has a whole set of prompts, cues, and themes to get those juices flowing.
Very popularly used prompts, again by John Muirlaws, that they have come up with this little prompts that help us journal is I notice, it reminds me of, and I wonder. So the order is I notice, I wonder, it reminds me of.
Sangeetha guided me through a session in her back garden where we used these prompts. But you always want to begin with some metadata.
So one thing that we need to write down when we are journaling with nature is not to forget adding in the details such as name, place, date and time.
Right.
But again, name is something that it's okay even if we don't know what it is, and we can always learn about it later or get to know about it later. Adding that will just enhance your journaling, and then you can always come back to it. It's a memory that will stay on in your book.
We sat ourselves in front of her crotalaria bush, which had a ton of activity going on. It was stuffed with caterpillars of the crotalaria pot borer moth. They were all in various stages of development. Some were regular caterpillars, red-headed, bristly with black and white rings. Like fluffy zebras with a Rudolph nose, crawling all over the plant, devouring leaves, boring into pods. Others had eaten themselves into a lethargic torpor and spun the most unusual cocoons.
You can see these little pupa. I guess this is a cocoon then. And surrounded by silk, like a spider web of sorts, and that is holding it like almost like a cradle over there.
Yeah.
And we can put together a page about this particular plant. Everything that we observe. It could be the fruits, the pods, the leaves, the caterpillar.
So you can go into as many or as few details as you like. I found it better to focus on one entity, and of course I picked the star attraction, the caterpillars, and they were perfect for me to try the prompt. I notice. On the crotalaria, there were so many different little events all on their own, even though it's the same creature. It's just the caterpillar, but they're all doing their own. I wonder. I also noticed that very close to that there was a leaf which was half eaten. So I wondered why. I was like, oh, is this just you decided to abandon it, or did you fall off, or did you get distracted, or was it not tasty enough as the leaf that seemingly the one right below it, it's And busy eating.
It reminds me of.
It looked like it was suckling on the pod. To me, it looked like a baby with a bottle, a little bit.
You've got quite a nice, interesting page going there.
What did I tell you about that overactive imagination?
Really enjoyed it.
And I like
Sure.
chomp chomp.
Yeah.
It's adding the eating effect.
Those are the sounds I was hearing when I was watching them. My favorite thing about nature journaling is that it helps me really think about my words as well and how I use them. Words and numbers are also crucial elements of nature journaling, especially when it comes to non-visual cues.
See, sketching is one part of nature journaling, and writing is one part of nature journaling. It's a combination of both, right? So many a times things that we cannot sketch, okay, like these non-visual elements, we encourage them to write in words. You can always get creative about how you're trying to show these non-visual elements as well.
Right.
Like a bird call or something, you can show it like wavelengths, things like that. You can use numbers creatively, and just with noting down the number of buds that you see, or the number of times the bird comes to the nest to feed its fledgling. There are many ways how you can look at numbers as well.
As you can imagine, journaling styles are as unique and diverse as our sense of fashion or our food preferences. Some could be all geeked out with facts and info, others could have poems and rhyme, and some may be very visual with a scattering of words. Whatever works for you. Personally, I found it good to have the prompt to keep me focused and really see what I was looking at. There are endless prompts out there for you to try. Of course, you can make up your own or just freestyle too.
We have a whole bunch of question prompts itself, like what if?
Okay.
And they try to have a conversation with the plant or the bird or whatever, literally in their mind.
Right.
And then what if? It could also be even the basic questions, like start the question with what, why, how, when. So that's the best part about journaling, and just sitting here and watching and observing that you keep noticing things that you hadn't noticed, or if you just walk past it or just give it a glimpse and walk away.
So I think, and Sangeetha agrees, that nature journaling gives you a very different experience to nature writing or photography. It's a much deeper, more intimate process that unfolds in your brain. You ask 100 questions about your subject and learn so much about it. Sometimes, of course, you don't have all the answers. In fact, this is what happened to me. Every answer I found led me to more new questions.
Also, many a times it's okay for them to not have the answers to all of this at any given point of time.
Okay.
But as long as they're curious, and asking the questions is more important as well. They can always come up with the answer later, or they can find out, but just nudging them to be curious, to become curious and ask those questions.
Nature journaling is a very personal, private thing, but it doesn't have to be done just for fun or pleasure. It can and is effectively used to enhance important scientific work or writing. Many modern artists are commissioned to produce scientific illustrations as part of academic or literary publications, much like the naturalists of yore.
So I think even now, nature journaling can be used in many such ways, wherein we are documenting, observing, or recording our observations. Okay, yes, I know camera has come in and it just makes life simpler, like just click of a button and all that. But I think nature journaling gives a more mindful approach towards observing and documenting the natural world. Yeah.
This mindful connection with nature is precisely what we need in a world plagued with climate change, species loss, and habitat degradation. So much of nature is being lost so quickly, and we don't even realize it. A few years ago, psychology professor Peter Kahn published a paper on something called environmental generational amnesia. This means that each generation thinks that the environment they are born into or inherit, regardless of how degraded or polluted, is normal. This is because their yardstick or baseline of what is healthy nature has declined. You know how your grandma says, "Oh, when I was a kid, we used to swim and play in the lake down the road." Well, what you see now can hardly be called a lake. It is but a scraggy strip of stagnant water, slowly filling with sewage and dying fish, sending up stinky wafts on hot afternoons. You'd never dream of dipping a toe in it. Once Grandma and her memories are gone, nobody will even remember the lake. Your kids might think it's okay and even welcome it if the cesspool that they see got filled in and built over. Your kids don't know of the lake's existence, not even from memories. They weren't connected to it in any way and would happily accept a skyscraper instead. But imagine if someone kept a lake journal of the migratory birds, the swarms of dragonflies, the chirping crickets, the singing frogs, the walkers, the children, the picnickers. Nature journaling keeps records of things, traps memories on paper. It's a testament of the state of a space through time and can help people cherish, remember, value, and protect nature.
Mentally, emotionally,
What do you think nature journaling does for a person who really sort of gets into it and invests time with it?
I think it gives a lot of peace and calm. And nature journaling, I think for me, it helps me be present with whatever I'm sketching and whatever I am writing about. And just being present helps me become a lot more curious and lot more aware of my surroundings. And I think everything else kind of numbs when I'm sketching, when I'm really in the moment. There are times when I'm in a big hurry, I have so many things to do, and I have to journal also, you know. But even in those moments, it just slows time down. I'm forced to slow time down, and that is quite magical.
It's almost like meditation and restorative for you,
Yes,
from
yes.
what I can understand.
Yeah, it's meditation is nothing but being present in the moment, right? And that's what nature journaling does. Like you are focused and you're like completely with the plant or with the bird that you are observing the
Right.
whole time.
Experts across the world have talked about how nature journaling is connected with positive feelings of gratitude, being thankful for, and celebrating the natural world that one is part of. And this in turn feeds back into our emotional and mental state.
The more you look at it and you're trying to draw it, sketch it, you become so much more connected, like a very intimate connect with whatever you're sketching. I think it happens for anybody pretty much, because you spend so much time looking at the flower or the seed or the caterpillar, and there's that joy factor, right? Happiness when you are able to imitate it and put it on your paper.
Yeah.
So I think that joy translates to a much intimate connection as well.
Many of us have really discovered the joy of nature during this pandemic, right? I know so many people who've become plant parents, who photograph flowers and trees outside their window, whose Instagram activity has had a spike in nature related pictures and posts. So clearly, we are connecting with nature, but coupling that with something as meditative and insightful as nature journaling makes the connection that much stronger. I think the only thing I'd be worried about is, for me personally, I go out, say, I was just thinking about walking around my neighborhood and sketching all the leaves I see, and then I'll be like, let's open up this app, or what's that bird called, or oh, what is this leaf shape? And, there is the danger of that. And also, you said disconnect, so I guess it would also mean from your devices and.
Yeah, absolutely. I think when you are journaling with nature, just completely be with your journal book and yourself, no gadgets, and then
Yeah.
just describe whatever you see.
Yeah.
You don't need to know any fancy name. You don't even have to know the name of the species that you're sketching. You don't have to have the exact word like a leaf. Is it obvate or obtuse? You don't
Yeah.
have to know all those words.
Got it.
Just describe it in simple words that you have, that you can describe it.
What do you think motivates a person to be consistent? And be it somebody like you who already is so artistically blessed and inclined, to a regular person who's starting out, what do you think motivates people to be consistent with this?
Yeah, I have thought about this question quite a bit also, because we do workshops, and many a times only during the workshop the children or the adults are like sketching and journaling and everything, and after that many of them, though they are interested, they don't make the time for it. But I think those are times when you need to like come up with your own themes and your own activities, and challenge yourself to like, for example, like 1 month just sketch all the leaves in your neighborhood. Okay, and then just go on exploring all the different kind of leaves, or another month just sketch flowers in your neighborhood, or just seed pods or the birds. So by giving yourself those themes, you can probably get curious or bring that curiosity inside you, and then start sketching and journaling more often. And also, I think consciously setting aside time, setting aside even half an hour Or some people, I've heard even some artists who just set aside 10 minutes of time for journaling as well.
Okay.
You know?
Wow.
So I guess even if it is, so that's what, it doesn't have to be detailed. It doesn't have to be like a big, you don't have to fill up the whole page or anything like that. Even if it's 10 minutes, you're observing a small little element of nature and you're capturing it, and that's more than enough.
Sangeetha very sweetly gifted me a sketchbook to keep journaling in. I will confess that not too many pages have been filled in. My biggest problem? Getting out of my own head. I've got myself thinking that because I draw like a 3-year-old, I'm not good enough and my sketches are not worthy of occupying space on a page in my own notebook. Oh, the mind and its dark tricks. I found a video by John Muir Laws that really helped with this.
Have you ever made pancakes? Why, sure you have. What happens to the first
He
pancake?
calls it sacrificial pancakes. We can substitute that with dosas or rotis or macarons or whatever you fancy. He holds up 2 pancakes, one in either hand, and likens them to 2 different journal entries. The first pancake you make is usually flat, misshapen, kind of burnt, and has the look of a half-damp threadbare dishcloth. The second one is round, fluffy, cloud-like, golden brown, puffy and pillowy from the leavening bubbles. He says both pancakes are equally important and part of the process.
You need to make this in order to make this.
Think of the first gloopy pancake or congealed dosa batter as a sacrifice you need to make to get to the second delicious, dreamlike one.
It's the same way with our drawings.
Because see, nature journaling is not about a beautiful artwork or like the best artwork or a masterpiece or anything like that.
Okay.
The whole goal or the key thing to remember while nature journaling is observation, is about recording or documenting whatever we are seeing. Okay. So as long as you are just curious and are trying to record whatever you're observing, I think that does it all. That's the magic,
Okay.
And you don't have to beat yourself about how the artwork or the sketch is coming in your book. That is not the point.
Okay.
Just the process, just about seeing and capturing it.
Right. Okay. I'm going to tell myself that under my breath the whole time.
Yeah.
Nature journaling is time traveling, memory keeping, montage making, a single frame, 1,000 sequences. It's a quick snapshot you can sketch over a cup of coffee, or an elaborate piece of narrative art spanning over several seasons or events. Nature journaling is whatever you want it to be, your style, your perspective, your thoughts, as long as you're drawing with hungry eyes. I'm going to try and keep doing it because I feel like it would really add to my writing practice and give me a deeper, clearer view of the more than human world around us.
But nice, I like your journal page.
You do?
Yeah,
I
think you should just add in the metadata.
Yeah.
And then
So Sarah, you
pretty
think I
much
can do it?
done.
I think so.
If you can do it.
Yes, absolutely.
That's Adarsh, Sangeetha's husband, who's yet to properly try nature journaling. Now, if you ever give it a whirl, you can post your journal page on Instagram and tag Green Scraps. That's at GREEN_SCRAPS. Or check them out for some inspiration. I've also linked other resources you can have a look at. You can also follow Sangeetha on Instagram at Sangeetha Kadur. Special thanks to Adarsh, who helped troubleshoot equipment issues and get pictures and promo material for me. Also, big shout out to Vaishali Vijaykumar, a journalist with the New Indian Express. She's a listener who reached out to me last week and wanted to feature the podcast. I was expecting a small snippet, but she gave Tigress on Tuk-tuk this lovely spread in the Chennai Express, which came out last Thursday, the 13th. So that's the show's first big feature in print, and I'm so glad it happened organically through a loyal listener. Thanks, Vaishali. And I just want to say I'm extra thankful for each and every one of you listeners who tune in week on week. Here's to many more of you. You can follow the show on Instagram and Twitter at Tigress on Tuk-tuk. Most of you guys are listening on Spotify, so please do leave that rating for this show like we talked about before. Alrighty, I'll catch you next time. Stay sane and take the world in with those hungry peepers. Bye-bye.